speaking of what ifs, let's talk self-defense and all this. So can you, because I know there's and I know there's different companies out there and different people offering services. And what I've been noted, what my takeaway right now is that there's a big difference between companies that provide self-defense insurance and companies, I don't know if I should call you a company, you're a law firm, and law firms that actually your attorneys and when someone signs up with you, you're retaining you. It's a retainer. And so you have a law firm on your side. Can you tell the difference between that?
Exactly. And I felt like you gave a pretty good summary. So we are a law firm. We offer our attorneys on retainer service. So basically, people are able to join. There's a monthly fee for the program. And as long as they're paying every month, they're retaining our services for that previous month. So if there was a self-defense incident to arise, they've already retained our services. We're already their attorney. They're already our clients at that point. However, an insurance service is a little bit different. An insurance service, often these programs still have like a monthly fee. They're still, the insurance program has still promised an attorney in the case of a self-defense arising. However, the biggest difference between insurance and a law firm is that insurance is not able to cover certain things. That's because insurance is not legally able to cover a criminal act. So, for example, insurance is often the group that gets to make that determination. So they get to choose whether or not they think what you did is a criminal act. In contrast, a law firm, that's what we do. We defend criminal acts. So we don't have to exclude coverage. For us, we just have to be able to assert that the incident was done in self-defense. That doesn't mean that 100% it was self-defense. It doesn't mean that a jury is definitely going to find that it was self-defense. It just means that we have to reasonably be able to assert that as an argument at trial. If we feel that we can assert it as a potential argument, even if we're unsure if it's actually gonna win or not, we're able to represent. Where in contrast, if a insurance service says, you know what, this might have been self-defense, but we kind of think it wasn't. They can deny coverage, and they actually have to when they think it's a criminal act. So another big reason this comes up is because sometimes, let's say you were in a situation where you had to exercise self-defense, and we look at it, we think it's a great self-defense situation. We feel good about your chances at potentially winning at trial, but you get a great plea offer. Maybe you get a plea offer that's to probation. And if you're going to trial, maybe you're risking years in prison. I think it'd be hard for anyone, to turn down that probation offer, even if they knew they were innocent, if they're risking years of prison if they go to trial. So there's times where I've had clients that will take a probation offer, they'll take a plea deal just because they want to minimize that risk of trial. And in that situation, under our program, we're able to represent them, at their change of plea to enter the plea agreement. We're able to represent them at a sentencing, where if it's an insurance company, if you were to plead guilty, that's you admitting to a criminal act. So if there was a sentencing in your case to follow that change of plea, for example, maybe your plea agreement is stipulating to somewhere between 1 and 5 years of probation, or maybe it's a plea that has no agreements and the judge gets to decide if it's probation or prison. They can drop you after that point, and they can even often have provisions to get the money back that has already been expended in your defense case. So I'm not saying that the insurance company is going to drop you every single time. It's possible that they may, still provide coverage, but we've seen instances in the past where insurance will drop people because they believed they engaged in a criminal act, where for us, as long as we can reasonably assert self-defense, we're able to represent you. And our program in those cases would cover, if it's a self-defense case, we would cover all the legal fees. And there's even some other things our program offers in terms of like bonding people out of, jail if that's required, mental health services, firearm replacement in the states where we're permitted to do so.
Yeah, that I never thought about that where they would drop you once you if you went into a plea agreement because you're admitting some sort of guilt or something like that, like you said, to
Mhm.
mitigate risk. And that it kind of drives me crazy because it's such you definitely want to know sort of at least on your end that you have some certainty with how you're going to face this major thing that you're running into, right? That's not having that would just that's such a nightmare. That's why you pay for this. And hey, everybody, just so you know, I am a subscriber to Attorneys on Retainer. Like I've always carried insurance before. I no longer have the insurance. I go with Attorneys on Retainer because another point you had made when we spoke before was that kind of I never had thought about was if I have a self defense incident and I have an insurance company and not a law firm, when I call that insurance company, nothing that I say to the insurance company is privileged until I actually get to an attorney. Then those conversations become privileged when they refer me. But with you, every conversation is privileged, correct?
Correct, because you're already, a client of the law firm, and that privilege extends to our staff. So even if you're not talking to an attorney directly at some point in the case, if it's a paralegal, if it's a receptionist, they're part of my staff. So your conversations with them are then privileged. If you were in a self-defense incident and you called one of these programs that's backed by insurance, it's often not an attorney answering the phone. And those conversations would not be privileged. It's possible that a prosecutor could subpoena that information and get a hold of those phone calls and they could potentially be used against you. And you're right, once you are connected to an attorney in one of those programs, then it would be attorney client privileged. But something I think about is if I was in a self defense incident and I have an option between calling a number I know that's going to immediately connect me to an attorney or in a company where it's going to be an insurance representative that won't be able to give me any advice, but say, hey, we'll work on getting you an attorney eventually. I know which number I would choose to call in that situation. I'd want to be talking to an attorney in that moment. Like when you call our program, you'll get connected to an answering service that will then say, okay, we're going to call an attorney right now, transfer you to that attorney. And then they'll, reach out to one of the attorneys on call. And that attorney will be available to answer your call and get to work on the case right away. We've had attorneys on retainer cases. And again, while I'm not able to, disclose the
Sure.
details of them, I can say that in these cases, we've gotten some in the middle of the night and immediately get to work. I had one that I got, I think, I don't even remember how early it was, but I think it was like 5 a.m. or something. And I was, I'm not someone who wakes up at 5 a.m. um, I'm a good, 7 a.m. type of person. So it was a couple hours early for me, but I was working on that case. I woke up and I was up, for the rest of the day working on that case nonstop. Rearranged my whole, calendar that day to make sure I could give the time and attention to the emergency situation. So that's the kind of response you get with attorneys on retainer. And I think it's really good in that situation to know that if you call, you're going to get legal advice applicable to your situation.
Yeah, I think for me, where it registers too on the attorney client privileges after you've had a self defense issue, especially for people who have never been in or haven't had much experience with really high stress, life threatening situations. Like, who knows what you say or how you say it when you get on the phone with, um,
Mhm.
with either your attorney or, with the insurance company, whoever whatever call taking mechanism they have. And if that gets brought up against you and they say, well, you said this or this is what you said, and that in the heat of the moment, I really want all those in my mind. I want all those conversations to be privileged the
Mhm.
minute it happens.
Yeah, because people say things they don't mean when they're stressed out. In these self-defense situations, people are panicking, and obviously, I think that's a natural response. If you were just put in a stressful situation, of course, your mind's going to be racing. You may not know exactly what to say. Things might not come out right the first time you say it. That's actually part of the reason we always advise people to, as we say it very eloquently, just shut up. If yeah, after a self-defense situation, if there's police, responding to the scene, just shut up. There's times where it just feels, I think it kind of feels right to talk to an officer where you're thinking, oh, all I need to do is explain and it's all going to go away. Unfortunately, sometimes when you're under that stress, something that makes a lot of sense to you in the moment is something that could be used against you later by that officer. And, sometimes people take the attitude that, well, maybe the officer is going to be suspicious if I don't make statements. No, just blame it on me. Say my attorney told me not to say anything. I have an attorney. They told me to just shut up if officers respond. Put the blame on me. And it's almost always better to just have an attorney address it later with an officer rather than saying something that could, haunt you the entire case. Any statement you make, even if it's really early on in the case, could follow you all the way to a potential trial.